is the Sensitive CEO Show, igniting sensitive entrepreneurs to grow your heart-centered business. I'm your host, Rose Cox, and this podcast shares with you inspiring and thought-provoking conversations for sensitive entrepreneurs wanting to grow a sustainable online business in a way that feels exciting and aligned with your soul. Along with my carefully curated expert guests, we share science-backed advice, proven strategies, and the systems we use to succeed in our businesses and our lives as highly sensitives, introverts, and empaths. And by the way, if you would like to be updated on when each episode is released, feel free to subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll also get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. To subscribe, pop on over to the website sensitiveceo.show or rosecox.com/pod. Now on to today's show. Hey, it's Rose and welcome to another episode of the Sensitive CEO Show. And in today's episode, I'm excited to introduce you to my good friend, Sinead Fine. Sinead is a professional tarot reader, mentor, and guide in the realms of the esoteric. Welcome, Sinead. It's so lovely to talk with you today.
Thank you. It's really, really good to be here. Really happy to be here.
Can you share with the audience a bit about your background, what got you into tarot, and anything else you'd like to share with everyone today?
Okay. So I'm Irish and I'm currently living in Israel because I married an Israeli man. And I have traveled the world and I always brought my tarot cards with me. But I started reading tarot, I think I was around the age of 20. And before that, I used to play with tea leaves in the morning with my grandmother in her house. And then I found normal playing cards and I was kind of messing around with those with friends for a laugh. And then I heard about tarot, but I came from this very tiny place in Ireland and there was no tarot cards anywhere. And eventually I was living in Holland and I found a tarot deck and that was it. I was addicted. And I was terrible at it at the beginning until I put the book away and just started learning how to tune into my heart. So I've been reading professionally since 1997. I've read for thousands of people, both face-to-face, online. And I love tarot. I love the richness and the symbolism of it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love that before we hit record, you shared that you'd pulled a card with me today, which was so nice. It was lovely for you to do that. Thank you. And it was such a relevant card. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, tarot, I don't believe that the future has been created yet. So I don't see tarot as, I know that it's known as a kind of like a parlor trick or a predictive tool. But because we cannot predict the future really fundamentally, because it hasn't been created yet, I use it more like as a guide, as a way to help us with direction and focus. And I feel that it's such a rich world of symbolism and archetypes, and it really speaks to a deep part of us. And I just love it. It's such a great tool.
I know you love it because you're so passionate. Everything I see you put out there, and I've seen the number of card decks, tarot decks that you've got as well. What are some other reasons? Well, what are the main reasons why you love it so much, apart from what you've already shared?
It works. Believe it or not. How does it work? I can't really explain. Maybe one day quantum physics will explain it, but I think it works with the system of synchronicity. So basically, if someone comes to me and they have a work issue and they need to sort their head out about their work issue, when I pull the cards, a lot of the cards that come out are actually cards about work. So it's like, wow, how is that? Is that a coincidence? So, when I started first reading tarot, I go, wow, what a coincidence. But then after like over 20 years of reading professionally, I go, it just works. I don't know how it works, but it works. People come, they have an issue, they need direction, they need clarity. We do the cards and they walk away with clarity. So it works, first of all. It's very direct, which is not always easy. Sometimes it's like a wet fish slap on the face. It's like, I might ask the question, what's going on with this relationship, whether it's with a friend or my partner or my kids? And I'm not delving into their own private world. I'm asking about myself and my interaction with them. So like, what's going on for me in this relationship? And I'll pull a card, and it won't be a very nice card. And it will say, you're not being very nice at the moment. So sometimes it can be very direct, but I like it because it shows you what you're not always aware of. We tend to get absorbed in our own lives and our dramas. And then the cards kind of say, hey, this is what's going on. So I like it because it's very direct. Also, because it's archetypal and it speaks through the world of symbolism. And symbolism is very, very ancient to our brains. Like we used symbols and pictures long before we could actually start to speak. So a picture can tell 1,000 words. So very much tarot does the same thing. You look at a tarot card and there's layers and layers behind it. It's not just the typical meaning of the card. There's the picture. There's the way I interpret the picture. There's the way the person sitting beside me will see the picture, and they might see a different thing. So archetypal, symbolic, I love it. And, I use oracle cards as well. But for me, tarot it's quite a complex system within it. Inside it, it's got Kabbalah, alchemy, numerology, astrology. There's lots of layers inside it. So I definitely use oracle cards, but when it comes to me really wanting to go deep, I'll pull out my tarot deck.
Mm. And how many tarot decks have you got, Sinead?
I don't have many for someone that's been reading for a long time. I think I've probably got about 60 now, which 60. Is not a lot.
That's quite a lot.
I have a friend in America named Cynthia, and she stopped counting after 300. So I don't have that many. Yeah. For a professional tarot reader.
How do you choose which deck to use for different situations?
Well, I have all these decks and I buy them because I love the art or I love the story behind them. Maybe it's a Celtic one and I'm Irish, so I like the story. But when it comes to reading, I tend to only use 1, 2, or 3 decks because what I like to do is develop a relationship with the cards in the deck. And I want to be able to lie in bed at night before I sleep, imagine each card and know the picture. So it's like if I'm developing a relationship with someone, it takes time and I get to know them. And the longer we're friends, the deeper the relationship. So when it comes to reading for people, I don't tend to mess around with different decks. I get one deck and I get to know it really well. So the very first deck I used was the Mythic Tarot, and I used that for about 15 years. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to the Rider-Waite, which is a very traditional deck. And I use that mostly now. Or there's a deck I really love called the Light Seers Tarot. So I tend to go between those. And the other ones are just for me to play on my own. But when I'm reading for others, I will tend to go to the same decks. And they become they're like best friends, and I really trust them, and they tend to work really well,
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I totally get you. The imagery on the decks are just amazing. And the same with the oracle cards. I often buy decks because I'm just looking over here at my collection. I haven't got 60, but the images, the symbols, just the feel and look and feel of them, just that's what I love about them too. They really, they really grab me. Yeah.
And there seems to be this kind of myth that it's more women that are into tarot, but I have not found that in my experience. Generally, my clientele would be, until recently, I opened an academy called Tarot for Women, but before that, I would say it would have been 50-50 or like 60-40. Male would be 40%, 60 be female. So a lot of men are very interested. Like my husband's always nagging me for a tarot reading, So I find when it comes to gender, it's quite balanced. Mm. And I've read for every type of profession you can think of, from politicians, gynecologists, down to housewives and cleaners and teachers and mechanics and engineers and guys who are into quantum physics. So I've read for all types of people over the years. And there's this, I think as humans, we have this deep need for something beyond the rational, like something a little bit mystical, something symbolic, something that can explain the world to us in a way that's perhaps sometimes doesn't feel logical. But it works, definitely works.
Well, that's really interesting that it's around 50 or 60-40 males as well. I didn't know that. And it's interesting because HSPs are 50% male and female. So I'm don't know if there's a correlation, but it's just, that's very interesting.
It could also be because of how I read. I'm really practical. Someone comes, they have an issue. Okay, let's look at it and make sure that you leave with a step-by-step plan of what to do next. I'm very practical. I think the guys appreciate that. It's kind of like I'm being a bit gender biased here maybe, but because I'm practical, the guys that may be less woo-woo will come to me and go, okay, she's not so woo-woo. I can sit with this woman and have a conversation with her, So it could also be me in my experience, but in my own personal experience, it's quite equal.
Well, I love that you shared that. That's something I never knew. Yeah. So your topic today, I'd love to dive into that. So making the right choice, how highly sensitive people can be guided in the right direction. So where do we start?
I think for me, like I didn't even know I was a HSP until about 4 or 5 years ago. I didn't know. I just thought I was a weirdo, that felt everything. There was this weirdo psychic that lived in the little town in Ireland. But when I realized I was HSP, everything fell into place and everything made so much sense. And I started to understand myself on a deeper level. And what I've noticed is, especially for us, the world is such a crazy place. It's so fast. There's too much information. The stimulation is extreme. And for us, the first thing we need to do is just slow down, because if we want to go on our path in life, you need a little bit of quiet time to work out within ourselves where we want to go. And how do you get quiet time? Where you've got your phone and the noise and everything around us. It's so stimulating. And how do we even connect back to ourselves? So my first thing is like, I have 2 things written in my kitchen. One is over the kettle and one is on the fridge. And it's to remind me, it's like, are you slowing down today? Because I'm one of these people. I've got a moon in Gemini, like I'm dang, 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 dang. I'm so fast, I'm like, want everything done yesterday. So are you slowing down today? Or how are you slowing down today? And the other one I have over the kettle is, are you making space for yourself today? So what I mean by space is like 10 minutes to just stop, or a cup of tea and go outside and sit on the grass, or just stopping and breathing, or, going on YouTube and playing some meditation music and just slowly washing the dishes, So for me, about when I think about going in a direction, it has to be first to slow down. And then secondly, to connect back to our hearts, to connect back to the wisdom that's there. Because I think for us, we're very sensitive beings and our heart has all the answers, all the wisdom. And so when I'm having a really stressed day, I'll find somewhere to go, whether it's the kids driving me, they're like, mom, play with me. And I'm like, I need 5 minutes. And I go into the bathroom, I close the door and I just put my hand on my heart. And it's like, what do I need right now? Where do I need to go? What do I need to do next? So for me, it's slowing down. It's connecting to my heart, connecting to the wisdom that's in my heart. And it's not an easy thing to do when we possibly have been brought up to be fast, goal orientated, smashing goals, getting this, achieving that. Even the pressure of who am I? What am I supposed to do with my life? What's my purpose? Even that can start to put lots of pressure on us. Yeah. Instead of just this magic of allowing ourselves to just be, it seems to be a sin in the modern world to just be, to not do. So I find that even before I pull out my tarot deck, it's like, slow down, make some space, put my hand on my heart, creating space, making things more simple and getting into that place where the answers start to speak, the answers start to come outside. And for me, I often find that I'll get an image that will pop up in my head to give me some clarity, or else I'll hear a word in my head, which is obviously me, so they might be just little guidance tips. And then I have a better idea what to do. And I don't always pull out the cards. I was very addicted to them at the beginning, and I was pulling them out for should I go to the supermarket or should I stay at home? But nowadays I don't pull them out every day. Sometimes I don't pull them out for a week. But when I pull them out, it's usually because I need a little bit of clarity and I'm a little bit confused and my head's being a bit too noisy or I'm too stimulated. And then I will pull them out. They will help give me some direction. But I think for HSPs, we really need to learn how to slow down and to stop comparison syndrome.
Mm.
Oh, but everybody else is racing. Everybody else has got this. Everybody else has achieved that. Is that really what the most important thing in life is? You know, I don't think it is.
No,
I think
not
it's
at
really
all.
about learning to be in the moment, learning to connect to our hearts, learning to be with others in that authentic moment. And it's becoming more and more rare. And I think for us HSPs, it's a real gift that we can bring to the world. You know, like if I see people around me running and stressed and overwhelmed, and then I sit with them and go, how can you create more space in your life today? And they look at me in shock going, what? Space? What is that? You know? So yeah, they would be the ways that I would say to help us go to a right direction, is to slow down, be still, find that space, connect to our hearts. Yeah,
I love
definitely.
that. And I love how you have those 2 reminders in your kitchen. That's such a good idea, because I think a lot of us now know innately that we do need to slow down, but just having those little reminders to jog your memory, or, you know, jog your brain into remembering, yeah, I'm slowing down today. That's beautiful. And I think that's a really good tip to share. Yeah.
Yeah, like the thing is, I work from home, so I see those messages when I go to make a cup of tea or go and make my lunch. But if I was someone that was out working in a job all day, I would have alarms on my phone.
Yeah.
With the alarm that makes a really nice sound, not one of those, like a nice musical play. I go, oh yeah, I need to slow down. Like, 4 or 5 times a day, the little musical alarm to remind me to slow down.
Yeah, like some nice chime bells or crystal bowl or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my alarm in the morning. It's birds singing in nature, and that's my alarm in the morning. I can't handle these loud alarms. It puts me in shock.
I actually don't have an alarm. I've got an Apple Watch, and I just have it taps me gently on my wrist, and it's nice. It's such a nice way to wake up. If I normally actually wake up because the birds start singing here at about 4:30 in the morning in the summer, and it gets quite light. So I do actually wake up quite naturally. But if not, then at 5 o'clock, I get a little tap on my wrist.
Right. Wow, you're an early riser. I love waking up early. I love having that cup of tea before my kids wake up, starting the day, shanty. Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So the next step after you've connected to yourself, to your heart, what would be the next step?
Well, for me, because I'm a tarot reader, I would be pulling out my tarot deck. But for anybody that's listening, you can get any deck. There's thousands of decks online now. And, if you like cats, I'm sure there's a cat oracle. If you like food, there's a food oracle. Like you can get a deck on anything these days if there's anything you're really attracted to. I don't think there's a HSP deck out there yet. But that could be an idea for someone to do.
Yes.
Yeah. So, to just get a deck that you resonate with, and then to get the cards. And when you're in that quiet space, I find that they're not very accurate for me when I'm running out the door to get to the bus stop with the kid. Okay, I'll pull a quick card. It doesn't work like that for me. So I need to get into that quiet space. I might make myself a cup of tea or light a candle. And then I'll ask a question. And often my questions are quite broad. It's like, what's going on for me right now? Or if I have to make a choice between 2 things, I might ask, what is the better choice for me? And then I'll pull maybe 2 or 3 cards for one choice and 2 or 3 cards for the other one. And I'll turn them over and I'll just sit and I'll look at them. So I usually teach this to my students at the very beginning. The first thing I do is I just look at them. I don't try and analyze them. I don't try and let my brain jump in. I just look at the pictures and I describe out loud or quietly what I see. I see a woman is holding a cup and she seems very serene. So I describe it. I don't try and analyze it. And then I go into my heart and I look at, for example, the 3 cards for one choice. And I go, how do I feel when I look at those cards? Do I feel good? Do I feel confused? Do I feel sad? Do I feel stressed? And then I look at the other set of 3 cards. And very quickly, you see the answer. And the answer is usually what you already knew deep down, but you let your head get in the way. And so I love it when it comes to making choices. And I don't go, okay, well, I have to do that because the tarot cards told me. No, I use them as an information tool. Just like if you went to a coffee shop with a friend, told them a problem, they give some advice. You don't have to do the advice they give, but it's just more information for you then to make that decision. And that's how I use the tarot, the oracle decks. So I use them as a guidance tool. So first of all, I look at the cards, I look at the picture, I describe the picture. Then I feel I feel what's going on in my body. Maybe I actually have a tight stomach, or I feel something tight around my neck, or I feel very relaxed, or I feel carefree, or I feel joy. And then I kind of put what I've felt and what I've seen. And then I try and work out, well, what could that mean? So sometimes it's hard for me to read for myself because I've been reading tarot for so long and I know the levels and the card meanings. So sometimes for me, if I'm really, really overwhelmed by something, I might pick up the phone and ask a friend to do it for me. But that's very rare. It happens about once a year. So I feel that they're great. And you don't need to know tarot at the beginning. You don't need to know what the oracle cards mean at the beginning. You just go with that process of looking at the pictures. What are you feeling? And then trying to connect what you think the answer could be. And if you go straight for the book, you're going straight to your cognitive brain. Yeah. And then you're kind of, sometimes that overrides your intuition. So I always tell my students when they get a deck, I want you to put the book away for 3 months, 3 months or 6 months. You're not allowed to look at the deck, the book. And they really don't like that. But no, I won't know the meanings. I'll get it wrong. I says, but what if there's no such thing as wrong? What if there's no such thing as wrong and you can only be right every time? To learn how to trust your intuition, because for HSPs, we are naturally empathic. We're naturally psychic. Everybody's psychic, but we have finer tunings. And reading tarot and oracle cards usually come quite easily and quickly to people who are HSPs.
Yeah. And it sounds like you really tune into the energy of the card. And it makes total sense why you have 2 or 3 main decks that you choose, because you know that energy so well. They're like your friends.
Yeah. So I have one deck. It's so battered that the edges are all ripped, and it used to have symbols on the back and they're all worn off. And when I was in Ireland recently and a friend said, guess what I found? And she gave me a deck. She got it in a secondhand store, and it's the actual deck, the Mythic Tarot, out of print now, the first edition. And she gave it to me, and I compared the back of the 2 decks, and it was like 2 completely different decks because mine was so worn out. And people love when I pull that deck out because they're touching it, and it's like the paper is nearly feathery at this stage because it's so old. So yeah, I really get to know them, and I can see all the pictures in my head, and all the characters become like friends, and they speak to me. And it's like that for anybody who's a HSP. If they get a deck and work with it and develop a relationship with it, it can really become a good friend, a good guidance tool.
I love that. And it's so true that HSPs have that natural gift because we're already intuitive, and we just need to, as you say, put the book away.
Yeah, put the book away and slow down.
To me as well.
Yeah, and stop the comparison, because, lots of people are running around and stressed and overwhelmed. Do I have to be like that? Do I have to make those choices? Do I have to fill my life up with every moment? No, I don't have to. But there is this pressure in society, which is, like the levels of stress in the world now, the levels of mental issues are bigger than ever before. Like I was watching a talk by Gabor Mate a while ago. He's one of my heroes. And it's just crazy what's going on around the world in regards to mental health. Yeah. And I think a lot of it's to do with this internal pressure that we put on ourselves. And so for HSPs, because we're that extra sensitive and things affect us even more, and we can end up getting so many physical things because of that overwhelming stress, it's so important to slow down, to connect, to tune into our hearts. And I think Oracle and Tarot cards can remind us to do that as well.
Yeah. So would you say that is the main thing that's helped you as an HSP with the tarot, or is there some other aspect to it?
Well, I didn't know I was a HSP until 5 years ago, and 4 or 5 years ago, but I would say before that, yes, it would have been my main tool. It would have been my main tool. Like, definitely, I love reading books. So if I find a good book, I'll highlight it, I'll write notes, and that can help me understand myself better. But yeah, like all the big moments in my life where I was completely overwhelmed, or I had to make a decision, or I had to disconnect from a situation or a person, they really helped me. They helped me understand myself. They helped me understand the situation. They helped me understand the dynamic that I had with the other person, or the the job or whatever. So yeah, I didn't realize I was a HSP until a few years ago, but before that, definitely they helped me. Now I would find that I'm definitely listening to podcasts more. I'm tuning into different websites about HSP to understand myself better. So the information part in the last few years has really helped me as well to understand myself. But yeah, definitely in the last few years, the information has really helped me. But also, yeah, I always go back to them. But it's not that I necessarily do what they tell me. It's I'm using them as guidance.
Yeah, and that's such good advice. I think some people like to outsource their responsibility to other people, but also to cards. And I think by taking your own responsibility, but seeing what the cards have to say and just really trusting your gut and using that as guidance, as you say, I think that's wonderful advice.
Yeah, and it's hard because we were brought up in school to not listen to our hearts, to listen to the logical, rational mind. There's no skills in school. Well, there wasn't when I was growing up. I hope there is now in schools around the world. But, like empathy, compassion, listening, tuning in, slowing down, they're all very, very important skills. And we don't get them in school. And we learn how to switch off. We learn how to tune out. We learn how to just go with the frontal brain. And then we don't trust ourselves. That's a big problem because then we make the wrong decisions in life. I'm sure you've done it where you've made a decision and then you've done it and it's been a disaster and you go, why didn't I listen to my gut? Why didn't I? Because you were going to go with the other one, but the decision that you ended up making seemed more rational, Yeah. And then we kick ourselves, we kick ourselves. So
I know I actually did that recently, a course that I signed up for. My gut was telling me no, but logically I was like, well, no, it's really good on paper. I've got to do it. And it was the wrong decision. But but it does happen. Well, we are coming up for time already. I know before we hit record, we said it's going to go really quickly. It always does when we get together and have a chat. But there's one last question that I love to ask all of my guests. And I wonder if I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask you, when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do, Sinead?
I make a cup of tea first. If I can, if I'm at home, I sit down, close my eyes, and I tune in. And then I'll go for my cards. First I slow down and I'm completely addicted to tea. I get my mom to send me tea bags from Ireland. So I'm completely addicted to tea. But it calms me down. I go quiet. And in the quiet space, the answers come.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, thank you so, so much, Sinead. It's been lovely talking to you today. And thank you for sharing all of your wonderful knowledge on the tarot. And I'll be popping all of your links, including your wonderful tarot school and course, and anything else that you have shared with me. I'll be popping all of that into the show notes.
Thank you. It was really nice to be here.
Lovely to talk to you. See you soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Sensitive CEO Show. If you enjoyed this episode or if you think it would be useful to someone else, please leave me a review on sensitiveceo.show. Just follow the prompt in the menu. Each month, I'm offering one lucky reviewer a chance to win a 1-hour business and mindset audit with me. This in-depth audit covers the 5 pillars of your online business, and you'll walk away with super clear action steps specifically for you and your business. You'll be re-energized and motivated to step into your greatness. You'll also find all of the show notes for each episode on the website sensitiveceo.show. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. And as the name implies, the email is short and sweet. The Sensitive CEO Show, igniting your sensitive superpowers.